not elevate in upgaze with ipsilateral ptosis. This was coined by Dunlap initially, where they thought it is because of paralysis of the inferior oblique and superior rectus muscle, but was later on found to be a misnomer. Now we call it as MED or monocular elevation deficiency, where there is either a weakness of the superior rectus or an inferior rectus restriction. So now I will be addressing as MED. Now if you look at this child, this is a case who had a monocular elevation deficiency. You see that he has a left eye ipsilateral ptosis, and in addition you see when he is trying to elevate the eye either moves in adduction well, straight up, and even in abduction. This has to be discussed. You have to differentiate from Brown's, where the eye does not elevate in adduction, but abduction the eye does elevate. So you need to do a thorough evaluation of this case. And then another child, if you see, has a left MED with ptosis. If you see in the up gaze, you can see in the abduction straight ahead, and in adduction the eye does not elevate, but in down gaze and all the other positions it's fine. So how do you approach a patient who has MED? Basically you need to do 4 important things. First, the force duction test. You need to rotate the eye in up gaze and look for restriction. Important is avoid retroplacement. That is because if you see, when you elevate the eye globe upward, the recta become taut, and hence when you're doing an FDT it becomes appropriate. Instead, when you push the globe down, you will see the obliques are getting taut and the recta are becoming slack, so you will miss the restriction. Second is force generation test needs to be done to see how strong the superior rectus muscle is. But remember that when you do a force generation test, always compare it with the other eye. Then comes Bell's phenomena. You need to see that though the eye does not elevate in up gaze, when you are actually eliciting a Bell's phenomena, does the eye go up is also one important sign to look for. And finally is upward saccades. You need to see whether the saccades are normal when the eye moves from downwards to primary position, and also from primary position to up gaze. And why? I will tell you. Now when we are thinking of MED, there are 4 things we are looking at. Either there could be a primary superior rectus palsy, which is seen in about 50%, or it could be a supranuclear elevation deficiency. The other cause could be an inferior rectus restriction, which could be primary or secondary due to superior rectus weakness. So let's look at superior rectus palsy or supranuclear elevation deficiency. As the name suggests, there will be a superior rectus weakness, and hence the FTT will be negative. However, if you're looking at inferior rectus restriction, we'll have a positive FDT. So when you do an FDT and you see if it's negative, then you have to look for Bell's phenomena. And if you feel the Bell's phenomena is present, then we label it as supranuclear elevation deficiency. In both the cases, the upward saccades will be affected. However, if you find that the FDT is tight, that means it's either primary inferior rectus or a secondary restriction. In this case, if there is an associated superior rectus weakness, then we are going to have a difficulty in eliciting saccades, and this is how we can reach to this diagnosis. Also, another thing, in patients who have an inferior rectus restriction, you can look at an exaggerated lower lip fold when the patient is asked to look upwards. So looking at all those signs, we can actually find out what is the actual cause. Now in this, what I'm going to be discussing surgeries and management. I'm not considering the acquired cases, which could be conditions like thyroid related, or in case of myasthenia gravis, or any other tumor involving the muscles or a neurocystic cirrhosis, because the management will be totally different. Now we are looking at patient with a congenital MED. First of all, we observe such cases if there is no or minimal head posture, or there is an orthotopia in the primary position. Secondly is treat refractive error if present, and also amblyopia management. Then comes surgery. Now we need to either operate for squint or manage the ptosis. First would be the squint, followed by ptosis, and the indications would be if there is a vertical deviation or diplopia in primary position, if there is a deviation which is causing amblyopia, and thirdly if there is a contracted visual fields. Now the goal of the surgery are important to be explained not only to the patient, but also we should be aware that we can only improve the deviation in primary position and probably improve the field of binocular vision, and hence appropriate counsel is important. Remember, there is no permanent cure of MED. The limitation of elevation will persist, so you need to explain that. It could require more than one surgery, excluding the surgery for ptosis. Now let's go about how do we go on managing managing this patient. So now this patient has limitation of elevation, we do an FDT. If FDT can either show positive for upgaze or negative. If it's positive for upgaze, it confirms either a primary or a secondary inferior restriction and hence has to be tackled by doing an inferior rectus recession with or without conjunctival recession. However, if it is a secondary inferior rectus restriction, we have to associate with NAPS specifically if the deviation is very large. But this could be done after 4 months. But in those who plan to do it in the same sitting, it would be better to do it as a ciliary vessel sparing surgery. However, if the deviation is good in cases like if the eye does elevate above midline, it's more than 20 degrees prism diaphragm hypertropia, there's a better FGT. In those cases, we can associate it with a superior rectus resection along with the inferior rectus recession. However, if it is negative for upgaze, that means it's either a primary superior rectus palsy or a supranuclear cause, then we can do a NAPS procedure. And this usually corrects about 20 to 35 prism diapers in primary position. However, if that does not work alone, then it can also be tried with a superior rectus resection if this forfeits in the above criteria as I mentioned. So, important things that you have to know before you do an inferior rectus recession is basically that prefer the limbal route because it could be clubbed in with a conjunctival recession. Remember that it's a tight muscle and that holds true for any muscles which are tight, like in case of Duane's retraction or following an MR fibrosis secondary to a 6-nerve palsy. You need to have pre-placed sutures. You can try thin hooks because there's possibility of the muscle slipping. Use a muscle clamp. There are certain muscle hooks which have a groove in which you can do the suturing because chances of the muscle slippage are very high in them. Secondly, important part of the inferior rectus is release all attachments with the lower lid, otherwise you will have palpable fissure changes. And when you have done the recession on table, it's important that you do a first duction test and match it with the other eye, and then only you can close the surgery. We talk about NAPS procedure, originally described, this is how it is. It was described by Phillips NAPS, where if you have been considering the medial and the lateral rectus muscles and this is a position of the inferior and superior borders, you need to shift it in this position. There have been modification of NAPS procedure that has been done. One in which you can shift the medial and the lateral rectus along the longitudinal axis of the superior rectus, or you can put it along the spiral of Tylocks. And this has also been further modified by Foster, where around 16 millimeters from the limbus or 8 millimeters from the insertion of superior rectus, they have put this is a single suture pass through 1/4 of the muscle tendon and suture to the sclera, not to the superior rectus, and they found to have equal results as with the original procedure. So this is a patient who underwent NAPS procedure, and you see that in a primary position he is fine. There is a slight limitation in upgaze. It's usually said that when you do the NAPS procedure, the elevation may not improve as well. It improves when you do an inferior rectus recession. What happens if this a patient with MED also has a horizontal strabismus? Now there are few things that have been said. You can do a simultaneous resection like you would do in a normal case, but here the only difference is that you put it at the level of the superior rectus. So you can do a recession and resection like you would do otherwise, and then shift those muscles next to the superior rectus. Important point that we cannot handle more than about 30 prism diapers of strabismus. The other thing is that you can also do a partial NAPS procedure, wherein partially you split the tendon, the medial and the lateral rectus. Half the tendon which is closer to the superior rectus is transposed directly, but the remaining half you can do a recession and resection like you would do in a case of a horizontal strabismus. And if there is an inferior, if you are tackling the inferior rectus in the first go, that you can do clubbed with a superior, with the horizontal deviation. The only thing is try to keep a 4 months gap, because then you are handling 3 muscles and the risk of anterior segment ischemia stays. Or if you are planning to do in the same sitting, use ciliary vessel sparing surgery. The other important point that I want to talk about is ptosis. Before you label that the patient has ptosis, it's important that you make him fixate with the eye. Like for example, this patient has a left eye MED, but he's fixing with the right eye. Now when you make him fixate with the other eye, you will notice that the ptosis disappears. So actually he has a pseudoptosis. So before you plan the surgery, it's very important that you find out whether he has true ptosis or not. However, if the ptosis is there and the Bell's phenomena is good, then you can go ahead by doing surgery. However, if it's poor or absent, you can try doing more of glasses instead. Now, there are certain complications that are known when you do any of this surgery. It could be any of this, and I'll try to address them as we move on. If suppose there's a residual hypertropia and the patient has undergone a NAP surgery, try doing an inferior rectus recession. If not, then the contralateral superior rectus recession. If you've already done an inferior rectus recession, you can use a modified partial NAPS procedure, as I explained before. Split the tendon, the medial and the lateral rectus, and then split it up. Also, in patients where there is only less than 10% diapers of hypertropia in primary position, you can use it as a primary treatment of modality. If, however, there is a hypertropia that develops, especially after, say, NAPS procedure, then you have already transposed it, try to get it to a lower position, and in case of inferior rectus, you need to advance it. Sometimes you may develop a large inferior rectus. Because of the large inferior rectus recession, there may be a problem with the other eye, because the other eye does not depress, this eye does not depress enough. In that case, you need to recess the other inferior rectus or put a Faden suture. If you would have done this in the first place, it would have avoided the diplopia. Anterior segment ischemia could be common if we operate on more than 2 muscles, though it's not much common in children, it's seen more in adults, and that can be done by either waiting between 2 surgeries or doing a ciliary sparing surgery as shown here. The other thing also what you can do is, you can leave one of the vessels behind, so take only a part of the more than 2/3 of the tendons and then transpose it upwards. The other problems are lower lid retraction. So as said earlier, clean the facial attachments very well so as to prevent the lower lid from sagging. Horizontal misalignment, that can happen. So you need to be very sure, clear the attachments. Secondly, when you shift the medial and the lateral rectus, it has to be done equally and properly to the superior rectus. So basically, to summarize, it's important to do a very comprehensive clinical examination, evaluate keeping in mind the FDT, FGT and Bell's reflex. Surgical procedure should be individualized, and keep in mind that multiple procedures may be required. Thank you.